I do want to mention, because I know this is important to your audience, the recent studies show that actually the divorce rate is at a 40-year low unless you are over 55.
Did you push record?
Thank you so much for tuning into our second act with Paige and Silka. Today is our expert segment day, and I'm so happy to welcome a new expert to Second Act TV, DeAnn Salcido. I said that right? Did I pronounce your name right?
You sure did. You did. Thank you.
DeAnn, thank you so much for joining us. DeAnn is here to answer, some viewer questions that we've had on some of our previous segments on divorce and women making the decision to leave a long-term relationship. And that is why so many women are more prone to file for divorce than men. And DeAnn is the perfect woman to answer that. She is a retired family court judge. She is a divorce attorney and now also a divorce coach. So DeAnn, again, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, yes, my pleasure. And I should say I've been divorced 2.5 times.
Well, that's a whole story in and of itself. But yeah, no, you actually brought up the point I was going to bring up next, which is not just from a professional perspective can you answer this and what you observe, but you've gone through it as well. So you both feel, you feel it from both sides. So let's get to it. Why do so many more women file for divorce than men, especially after 50? I think the percentages that were quoted were anywhere from 70 to 80%.
Oh, yes, 70% of divorce filings are women. And I do want to mention, because I know this is important to your audience, the recent studies show that actually the divorce rate is at a 40-year low unless you are over 55. And so I do think there's something at play there as far as the timing of marriages and when people are getting married, and are they at a spot when they know themselves? So that's part of it. But personally, I have been married 2.5 times, and I have been the filer 2.5 times. But as a judge and as a divorce attorney, I have definitely seen a variety of reasons. And bottom line is it boils down to communication and respect, and all disintegration of marriages. It boils down to those two issues. And for some reason, in my experience, women tend to be more in tune or desirous of that satisfaction coming from communication.
Yeah.
Whereas, men kind of like, well, I'm with you. That shows you I love you. And women are like, I need some intimacy. And so men and women perceive intimacy differently, in my experience.
I think you're right on, and we have talked about it in other segments, but I really want to dedicate one just on this topic, because when I also saw in Psychology Today had a good article that said women are more in tune, of course, with their emotions than men are. I think it's a generalization, but there's truth to that. And they need want satisfaction more than men, and are willing to take decisive action on that, where men are more apt to go with the flow. What do you say to that?
I would say that's exactly what my experience has been. And you hear a lot of men have come to me as a divorce attorney going, I had no clue. And then, during the consultation or the course of the case, I start seeing the clues that they were missing, either in the emails or the other communication styles, even with me. So there's just a different appreciation for communication styles, I think, that women have than men, and what men value can be different in the business world versus home. And so a lot of people in our second act, as you like to say, we have been institutionalized or socialized to kind of be that persona, be on. And so it's harder, I think, for men of a certain generation to bridge that communication gap.
Well, and again, for the purposes of this segment, we want to answer that question for men. I've gotten this so much. So I guess without being facetious, I want to say, listen, because we've covered this before. We've said this before. We've talked about, just what you said again, DeAnn, is that, oh my God, I didn't see this coming. You didn't see this coming? For some reason, it's a surprise. And so if you are listening, if you're a man, if you want answers to this question, that's one of the biggest pieces of advice we can give you, is listen to what your woman is saying, or either directly or indirectly. And that's, I think, the hard part in communicating, is that we sometimes tend to want men to understand what we mean without saying it.
Oh, that's for sure. Women are definitely guilty of, like, don't you know what I'm feeling? Can't you tell by the way I slam the door in your face that I'm angry at you? But we are not good at necessarily communicating that direct anger either. That whole what is it when you don't want to express yourself, and what is that word? I
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do.
Passive aggressive.
Passive aggressive. Yeah.
The passive aggressive relationship. Those are the ones. I mean, you have to be able to be honest with each other, and that's what I see a lot in the divorce world, is saying, hey, I'm just not feeling this anymore. I would like to work on this. And women and men need to be better at expressing exactly where they are. And I just feel, I'm glad I'm a woman. I regret sometimes that I cry. Sometimes I'm like, God, why can't I, like, get in touch with that emotion without crying? But at the same time, I know it's got to be rough to be a man, because you guys do have the same emotions. It's just you've been socialized not to be in touch with them. So each side has its own road to travel.
Yeah, no, and it's not, one is better than the other, or I'm genuinely trying to answer that question. So it actually hits home with just listen. And I know, this is two women talking, but this is, why do women leave more often? So I felt that was appropriate. I've had lots of men on content experts on that will say the same thing, that, yes, getting in touch with your emotions is so difficult, because, as you said, you're not conditioned to do so. Again, generalizing, but true for our generation. As a takeaway, DeAnn, what would you advise somebody who is listening and, maybe this is me? What are some of the red flags? Or, what something concrete, actionable advice can we give to men in this segment?
Well, one is always do a check-in. Do a check-in with your partner. If you're trying to, either you're divorced and so you want to make sure you don't repeat the same mistakes, or maybe you're at the point where she's talking divorce and you're like, oh my God, this is getting serious because she mentioned the D word. If you're out there and you're hearing this from your partner, do a check-in. Go, hey, how's it going? Ask. Just asking, how's it going, or what are you thinking, gives you so much credit in the bank for those days where maybe you're not feeling it. So do check-ins with your partner is one of the things that I see where people they feel like they're lacking that intimacy. And it's not that when you ask how's it going, or is it better at work, or anything like that they need you to solve that problem, which I think a lot of men don't ask because they're like, oh my God, I've got my own problems at work. We don't need you to solve our problems. We need you to care about our problems. And so just do a check-in, hey, and just communicate. And 5 minutes a day can make the difference. It doesn't have to be an hour. Just making that effort is a lot. It means a lot to a lot of women and could be the difference maker.
Yeah. No, I agree. So we'll link to your information. As I mentioned at the top of the show, DeAnn is a divorce coach. You primarily work with women, I think, because women tend to seek this sort of help more often than men do. But if you're a man interested in, or just even, I'm assuming, just maybe having some sort of consultation on this, you're available for that?
Oh, yes. DeAnnSalcido.com. They can go there and we can schedule a free consult for that. Men and women are welcome always. And it's at all stages of the divorce process, whether you're thinking about it, you want to know how a parenting plan might shape up, or if you're ready to get out there and date, but your confidence isn't what you need. Or like if you're a man out there and you're like, I want to make sure I don't make the same mistakes, I can coach people on all those issues. So.
Yeah. And for me, and also I was a filer in a gray divorce after 25 years of marriage, and it was just, the frustration had just built up, and so that is, I think, the biggest takeaway is don't let that frustration build up. Don't turn a dead ear to it until you're pushed until it's too late.
One other thing I wanted to say on that, because I do think a lot of times when couples are still engaging in the fight, men actually don't like that more than women. Obviously conflict is not good for anyone, but I always remind people that as long as there's a conflict, there's a still a willingness to make this work. And what men need to watch out for is when a woman stops fighting, when she just basically is not engaging anymore. That's like silent but deadly to the relationship. So even when me and my boyfriend have discussions about, hey, I'd like to see us go in this direction or whatever, I always tell him the fact that I'm talking to you about this means I'm still in it.
That's great.
So if I stop talking about this, that's really when you need to worry. So that might relate to why men I didn't see it coming. I thought things were great because she wasn't fighting anymore, It's not necessarily
Great point.
true.
Great point. I actually never thought of that. That is a great point. DeAnn, yeah, we are at the end of our segment. I'm going to hold you over for a couple more where we discuss, if you are going to be going through divorce, navigating divorce, and then what, what life after divorce looks like. So thanks again, and we'll see you on our next segment of Our Second Act with Paige and Silka.
All right, sounds good.
Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. The button is right over here. Just click on through to YouTube. And when you see that little bell right next to the subscribe button, hit that too, and you'll be notified every time we release a new video. See you next time.